10 minutes to your health, we look at signs you need to see a therapist. Important discussion, folks. Please don't miss it. Soon come. So contrary to popular belief, psychotherapy is not just for those struggling with mental illness. It can be beneficial for anyone who is experiencing stress, intense emotions, or life transitions and wants to improve their life. What are the telltale signs you need to see a therapist? Joining us now is licensed associate clinical psychologist, Mrs. Sonia Wynter. Morning, Mrs. Wynter. Welcome to Smile Jamaica. It's morning time.
Good morning. Hi, Neville. Good morning. Thanks for having me.
It's our pleasure. What is psychotherapy?
Psychotherapy is another word for talk therapy. So when individuals are having some of the challenges which you just outlined, such as stress, feelings of difficult feelings that's keeping them stuck, not performing, one way of helping them is through psychotherapy, which is talk therapy. You go to a therapist, they help you to identify what it is you're feeling, why you're feeling that way, and how to best cope so that your response to those difficult emotions is helpful to you and constructive and helps you to thrive.
Yeah. There are different types of therapy, right, Sonia? Because sometimes when people hear therapist, they tend to just bundle it all in one thing, but the psychotherapist is different, yes?
That's right, of course. Therapy is anything that helps you, to be better. So you have physiotherapy, which is about, helping you to heal muscular difficulties and so on. But psychotherapy is about helping you with emotional challenges that you're having. And most often it's provided by trained clinical psychologists, psychotherapists, counselors, and psychiatrists.
Okay. We have 10 critical signs, it says, to get professional help. I'll give you the headlines and then you could talk us through them. The first one says you're having difficulty regulating your emotions. Talk to me about that.
Sure. What that means is that they're we're all designed to feel different emotions at one time or another. Sadness, worry, all of those emotions are healthy and appropriate. But you know that you need support when, depending on how intense those emotions are and the duration for which they exist, they're protracted. Take, for instance, feelings of hopelessness and sadness and anger. When these emotions, you're responding to events in a way that is so intense emotionally and it doesn't fit the situation, and your response is having consequences that you don't intend, then you know that that's a sign that you need support. Your emotions are taking control of you, and you're kind of losing control of your life and how you interact with people and how you perform at work and things like that.
Yeah, that's the second thing we're about to say, that you aren't performing as effectively at work or at school as you normally would.
Mm-hmm. And that's because you're having difficulty, let's say, concentrating, paying attention, your memory is affected, you're not motivated in any way, you're not getting any fulfillment or interest from what you're doing. And as a result, you feel very lethargic and exhausted. And all of these are having a negative impact on work, how you're performing at work, or if you're going to school, how you're performing at school. So those are some of the things in that domain of life that tells you you can benefit from the support of a psychotherapist.
You're experiencing changes or disruptions in sleep or appetite.
Yes. So a lot of times when individuals are in distress, either because they're tremendously sad, feeling hopeless, or they're irritable, or they're having anxiety and worry, it manifests in their sleep. So either they're sleeping considerably more than usual, spending hours and hours and hours asleep, and even when they wake up, they still feel exhausted, like they need to go back to sleep. That's one sign. But other people, they have difficulty sleeping. They have difficulty falling asleep, or When they fall asleep, they have difficulty remaining asleep. And so when they get up and they're ready to face the world, they're feeling exhausted. They haven't had the benefit of restorative sleep. And that's going to impact them, not only in terms of their mood, which we spoke about earlier, but also in terms of their ability to perform as they go out in the world.
Yeah.
Similarly for eating, some people, they can bury how they're feeling by overeating, feel so terrible, and you just eat something and it gives you a little rise for a short moment, but then it's kind of compulsive. You're eating over and over and over, and you're noticing changes in your weight as a result. And then of course the opposite is also true, where some people, they're in so much emotional distress that they have no appetite whatsoever. So a dramatic change, either in terms of an increase in eating or a dramatic fall in your appetite, are also some symptoms that individuals are needing help from a psychotherapist.
Okay.
You're also struggling to build and maintain relationships.
And how this manifests is that you are finding yourself in a lot of conflict. You're not able to communicate what you feel. You're not understanding people. You're irritable. You're also finding that you're isolating from relationships as well. And all of this has to do with just how you're feeling emotionally, whether you feel this connectiveness to people that you had before, your family members, your significant other, and just how you're operating and dealing with them is unusually destructive in some way, either because, as I said, you're engaged, you're finding yourself activating a lot of conflict with them, or you're isolating and withdrawing from them. And as a result, your relationship, not only one, but probably several of the relationships that you are part of, start to suffer. And you find yourself more and more alone in this distress that you're trying to deal with.
Okay. Another one is you've experienced trauma.
Now, trauma is often experienced by individuals either as physical or sexual trauma. There is, of course, also emotional and trauma, but that's so often harder for people to identify. Physical trauma is where you have found yourself on one occasion or more than one occasion in a situation where you are being physically abused and you're kind of trapped. You're not able to help yourself and get out of the situation. So you feel helpless and therefore hopeless. And not only that, memories of that event continue to haunt you and create feelings of anxiety or fear, and then impact how you then are behaving for many, time in the years or weeks or months after the event has actually happened. And that can be physical and sexual abuse. And it's just having a long-term effect on you long after the event itself has happened.
Yeah. You no longer enjoy the activities you typically used to.
Yes. That's called anhedonia, where because there's this just sense of meaningless and hopelessness, you feel like there's no point in anything, in any endeavor, in any relationship, in anything that you used to do before. So it might be going out, being with friends, it might be sports activities, it might be reading, anything at all that used to bring you joy is now completely overshadowed by some of the more difficult emotions that you're struggling with, and therefore you can find enjoyment in almost nothing at all. In fact, you're just you feel like, recently somebody said to me, I just feel like a lost soul, just sort of wandering and can find no abiding city, as we used to say, and just this feeling of lostness or just stuck and in your life as a result.
Yep. Final one we look at this morning is your grieving.
Neville, in this pandemic, I'm coming across so many people who have had to confront significant losses. And then also more than one significant loss in a short period of time. And a lot of people are having difficulty coping, continuing with their lives in the way that they did before. And again, finding meaning and purpose. They're confronting their own mortality. They're confronting trying to construct their life without this important person in their life anymore, certainly not in a physical way. And that's just proving to be really overwhelming for them, and creates a lot of the emotions which we spoke about earlier, anxiety. And grief is an experience that people have when they have loss. And it's just a number of, you feel like you're on a roller coaster, one emotion to the next. Grief is not one emotion, it's lots of different emotions that you just feel you have no control over.
Yeah. Sonia, quickly before you go, so we've outlined a couple of ways. We have more that you can identify the need for a therapist. How do you find the right therapist? Because not every therapist is right for every person.
That's right. It's a relationship that you're going to develop, and it's important that it's a safe and confidential relationship that you're establishing with someone. I think the best way to do it is to search online. The Jamaica Psychological Association has a website, and it has a long list of counselors and psychotherapists and their contact information is there. That's the Jamaica Psychological Association. And then it's always great. Don't feel shy or embarrassed to call up a therapist and have a quick talk with them and see if you feel comfortable with this person. See how you come away from that telephone conversation feeling. Did you feel like this person connected with you in any way? You'll get a good feel, a reasonable feel of what the relationship is likely to look like from that conversation. So that's always a good preliminary thing to do, to just see who is the right therapist for you. But if you're in Jamaica, then the first place to start, I would say, is to go to the Jamaica Psychological Association. And then from there, do a little bit more homework, A lot of psychologists have a website. They'll tell you what their areas of specialization is, if you're dealing with depression, if you're dealing with fears of wanting to harm yourself, if you're dealing with grief and loss. Also, if you're an adolescent or if you're an adult, there are different or if you're in a couple's relationship that's suffering, there are different therapists who have areas of specialization, and you can identify that from their website, and then also give them a call and ask them about how they go about offering therapy, what it looks like, what it costs, and that sort of it.
All right. Thanks, Mrs. Wynter. Stay safe and God bless you.
Thank you so much. Bye-bye, Delia. Bye, Neville.
Hi, Sonia, licensed associate clinical psychologist, Mrs. Sonia Wynter. Coming up next, we may